If you could, please jot down your name in the chats. And the question today is, how do you use Luminar? And do you use Luminar as a plugin for Photoshop and Lightroom? So that was our question for today, is do you use Luminar as a plugin for Photoshop and Lightroom? Good, we'll begin in just a few moments. And again, the question that we put out to everyone, hey Russell, is how do you use Luminar? Do you use Luminar as a plugin for Photoshop and Lightroom, or do you use it as a standalone program? And here we begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Coffee Break with your host, me, Vanelli. Now, we just had a little new bumper added to there. So do me a favor, in the chat, let me know, what do you think of the new bumper? Our team has been putting together some neat little things for us on this, and I believe this is, we have about maybe 30 of these already under our belt. And if you want to watch them, you can check them out on YouTube. And if you like these episodes, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you hit the little bell so you can be notified when we're on. And the question earlier was, how do you use Photoshop, or how do you use Luminar? Do you use it as a Lightroom and Photoshop plugin, or do you use it as a standalone or as a single image editor? All right. So those are some of the questions we've been asking. Now, in this episode, we're going to work on, our topic is how to use Luminar and Photoshop for compositing an image. So I'm going to show you some really quick ways on how you can use Photoshop to composite our images, and then from there, we'll bounce it off and hand it off to Luminar, and Luminar is going to work its magic on creating a really cool style, and then we bounce it back and forth. So we're going to be starting with that in just a moment. All right. Now, we also are excited that we have a new partner that came on board, which is Fujifilm. So while I'm getting my computer set up, how about we watch just a real quick message from Fujifilm. All right, guys, so here I am inside Luminar. Now, I'm going to use this image here. So I'll right-click on it, and I'm going to find it in my Internet Explorer, or my Windows Explorer, and I'm going to open it up inside Photoshop. Now, once it opens, I'm just going to click the auto tone just to get some basic editing on it. And then I'll do the same thing with my second image, which will be his little buddy right here. All right. And where is it? Show and Explorer. There we go. And then I'll open it with Photoshop. Once again, I'll click the auto tone and I'll open the image. All right. So I have both images open. Now, my final output is going to be an 8x10 print. So the reason why I'm choosing 8x10 is with 8x10, I can go 16x20, or I can go 24x30. So an 8x10 is a good size print for stuff like this, because if they want them to be turned into a poster, or they just want it on their desk, I can go from 8x10, 16x20, 24 by 30, all right? So 180 pixels per inch equates to about 360 PPI or DPI. So 180 is sufficient. And honestly, I'm going to bump that up a little bit more to 240. That's what most printers recommend. I'll leave it as Adobe RGB. And I don't mind working in 8-bit color space. All right. Now, the images are on black. So I'm just going to convert the background to black. And I just did that by pressing Alt or Option backspace. And I'm going to unlock this background layer. There. All right, so let's grab the first image. And I'm going to drag and drop him on to the 8x10. And then Control or Command T to transform it. And I just want to bring this down right about here. And I can close the original. I don't need to save it. Good, I'll put them in place. And actually, I'm going to make them a little bit larger. Right about here. All right, that's fine. And then let's go get his buddy. Same thing. Let's drag and drop him in. And I could discard this. Now, people asked earlier, can I do all of this in Luminar? Well, the answer is yes, but Photoshop was designed for major masking. So a major, there we go. So Photoshop was designed to extract him, and so we'll use the power of Photoshop to do that. Now, if you notice something, if I bring the info a little eyedropper over, there we go. Notice the RGB right here. So this isn't pure black. What we added earlier is, notice everything's all 0. This isn't. We're going to first try to fix this in Luminar. And if we can't, I'll show you another neat trick to get rid of that. But for now, we're fine. So here's the main image of the little boy. And his partner is right here. All right? So we're going to put him in front and his partner in back. So this is the only one I'm worried about or concerned with. What I want to do is select the magic wand tool, because from here, what I want to do is select just the subject. And in a few moments, Photoshop does a great job at just selecting him, and I'm going to apply a layer mask to him. Boom! And look, already it popped him out. All right? Now, I'm going to back out of that for one moment. And before I do that, what I want to do is introduce you to a smart object. So I'm going to right mouse click, convert to smart object. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is if I decide to make any changes to the background of this boy, I can always go back to the smart object container and make the changes there. All right? So let me get back to him. Now I'm going to double click and open the container. Now I'll do the same thing again. Oh, try that again. Here we go. I'll select the subject. Got it. Now I'll make the layer mask. Good. Save. And now I can close that out. One second. Let me get back. Oh, there we go. I'm going to close this out. There we go. And here he is. Now, he's a little small. So, because he's a smart object, I can scale him without losing quality. Let's put him right about here. It's okay if the shoe's off just a touch. All right. And let's get his buddy behind him here. Proportional. I'm going to move him up right about here. And that's good. All right, that's good. There. Now, we have both of them set. So I have them in a position to where I like. Actually, he's a little bit too far over. Yeah, right about there is good. All right. Now I'm going to select all 3 layers, and I'm going to create another smart object. Now, so if I double click on this, it'll look identical to what we had before. The difference is down here, notice there's some overspill. The 8x10 is still there. Here's the 8x10, but what we're not seeing is him off the screen. Now, the reason why that's important is I'm going to apply a special effect using Luminar on him. So what I don't want to happen is half of him get the Luminar effect, and then if I decided to make him larger or smaller again, I don't want the bottom half of him not have the special Luminar effect. All right? So now that we have this set, now if I apply Luminar, Luminar is going to be applied to it as a smart filter, meaning I can always go back and re-edit the image again so it's non-destructive. All right, and here we are. So we're going to, from this section right into here, we're going to try to avoid looking at it. I know it's distracting. Now, I like to start with a Luminar look, and one of my favorites is the dramatic look. Ooh, that looks really good. But for this image, let's come back up to it. What I want to do is bring back some of the color. So the saturation was way down. Let's bring back some of the color. And the image looks a little too bright. Local contrast is really going to help out. Look at that. I love what it's doing to the hair. They still look a little pale. So we'll bring that back with color. Good. Oh, I like that. All right, so that's what dramatic did for us. So let's come back up here. And do you remember earlier I mentioned I was a little concerned with if it was going to be black enough up in here, the color. So what I want to do is just enrich the blacks a little bit more just in case. There we go. Just in case that background didn't fall into the black like I wanted. All right. And here's color. I'm going to bump up vibrancy and see what that does. Okay. There we go. That's better. You know what? I'm going to dial it back just a little bit. Good. All right. Before and after, I'm getting that grit look. But to get that grit look really, really sharp, let's see what the detail enhancers can do. So here's where, if I work on large detail, you'll notice, look at the uniforms. The uniforms get affected in here, whereas the small details, it's going to make the face look a little over-processed. That we'll take care of. I'm worried. I want to make sure that the uniforms really jump out. And we'll move the medium detail. Good. Now, I could also try AI structure. And structure's messing with the background a little too much. But you know what? Right about here is not bad. All right. So, to fix the skin, let's come over to our portrait tools and apply a nice smoothing effect. Ooh, look at that. Yep, that's doing the job for me. Let's see what shine removal is going to do. Nope, I don't have any shine. The shine on them is not that bad. So it looks to me like their skin can use more contrast. So after we're done with the portrait tools, we'll attack that issue. Now, watch what's cool about this. Look at that. So it's recognizing that there's two faces in this image. So when I apply the eye enhancer, it's going to apply it to both sets of eyes. Good. Actually, I like where that's going. Look at that. All right, so we're fine. I like where that's at. So, you know what, while I'm here, let's just see what the Orton effect does. The second one is going to have to soften the glow a little bit. All right, Orton looks pretty cool. Good, right about there. Yep, okay, that's good. And all right, let's come over here to the advanced contrast. And let's see what highlights can. Ooh, look at that. Highlights bringing back the skin tones. Yeah, look at that. So highlight is going to bring back some of that skin tone that I was losing. Yeah, right there. Good. And just because I have all these sliders doesn't mean I have to use them. But let's just experiment and see what midtones will do. Yeah, I'm comfortable with the midtones. And what about shadows? Okay. Shadows are going to bring out the hair a little bit more. Look at that. All right. Before, after, good, it gave me the little extra that I wanted. Now, I know I'm only dealing with up to this point here. So, yeah, right about there. So that's, I know is what I'm dealing with. What I want to do now is come back with the adjustable gradient and apply a darkening effect to the bottom half of the image. Good. And because it's going to be in shadows, let's give it a little more. Let's cool it down just a bit. Ooh, that looks good. All right, good. So here's what we started with. Here's what we finished with. So we used Photoshop to do the quick composite. Because I mean, that's what Photoshop was designed for. It was designed to do complicated masking. Whereas with Luminar, what's phenomenal about the complicated masking is we've applied that to the AI tools for the face recognition, the portraits, the sky replacement. So if we had that technology, I can't wait to see what the engineers are going to do with background images like this. All right, who knows? Maybe you're not quoting me on this. I'm saying, who knows where we're going to lead into for the next version of Luminar? But I think this would be this would be one of my featured lists that I added to the engineers, that I would love to be able to extract a background immediately, so we could apply composites like this. So I have this set. I might as well save it as a new Luminar look. Sports Grit, let's call this version 5. And then I'm going to apply it. Now, once I apply it, it's handing it off to Photoshop. And then once it's inside Photoshop, I'll show you how we take advantage of those smart objects. So while that's doing that, if you noticed, I love using the grit look. So that's where that dramatic filter the dramatic tools come in. But other tools that also give you that grit look, or that really sharpened look, would be the detail enhancers. The detail enhancer, that does an amazing job at bringing out extra detail, and of course, the AI accent. All right, so here we are. Now, one thing if you noticed, look at that little bruise on his hand, his arm. If I double click and open up the container, we're going to fix that little bruise. Now I can double click again on the actual image where he's at to keep everything non-destructive. I'm going to add a new layer. And then I'll come over to, let's see, the spot healing brush. Now I could do this in Photoshop or in Luminar, which I should have done the first time. But if I don't want to ruin, or if I want to keep it non-destructive, actually it would have been non-destructive in Luminar too. So I could have done this all in Luminar. Now I saved it. Once I saved it, it comes back to this container, this smart object, and notice it's fixed. Once I save it from here, now the cool part happens. It relaunches Luminar. It's going to look to see any changes we made to the image, analyzes it, and then applies the same effect all over again to the image, so the consistency will be the same. Now, it's good to point out, by the way, notice I'm running Luminar not just as a plugin, but I also have it open as a standalone program. So you can have both of them open at the same time, but keep in mind you're going to be taking up system resources. So I saved it. I'm going to close out of here, and boom, it's gone. How cool is that? So this is what it looks like without Luminar. And this is what it looks like when we apply Luminar to the image. And it's going to go back through and enhance it. So what's cool about everything we just did is once I create all these edits, like I did with either through Lightroom or either through Photoshop or as a standalone, and I save the looks, it automatically saves it whether or not, I'm able to use it whether or not I'm using it as a look or whether or not I'm going to be using it as a standalone program or as a plugin. All right, so I'm able to use it either way. So let me come back to it. So here we are in Photoshop. So here's what I was getting at is I still have it opened here. Now let's grab this little guy right up here. One moment. Him right here. This guy cracks me up. I love him to death. So you saw how we created it as a look. Let me close that out. There. And I called it the sports grit. A little too far. Starting point. Nope. It's almost there. Here we go. Sports Grit 3. Let's click on it. And all the looks, everything we just applied to that previous image is now applied to him. All right? So, but how cool is that? Is that you're able to use the looks that you created in the standalone app or as a plugin, you're able to use those to interchangeably all the way through. All right? Hello. So I'm going to open up, let's see time-wise. Oh, perfect, right on time. So what are some of your questions on this? What are some of the problems you're dealing with when you're dealing with composites? One thing, a trick for a composite is the final, if you notice, I applied, when both of them were together, we apply the dramatic look on it. By doing that, it gave both images a consistent look. A lot of times when people, let's say, take a person, extract them out of one scene and put a different background behind them in another scene, it looks fake because the colors don't go together. That's where if you apply a tool to it, like dramatic or the Orton effect, it'll apply the effect to the entire image. And then it balances out that color. All right? Good. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for taking time out for this quick Luminar coffee break. The breaks are designed to be interactive, to where if you have questions, please leave them in the comments below, and we'll do our best to answer them during the show. And then after the show, if you're watching this as a rerun, it's okay. We'll go back through, and either myself, our staff, or even other members jump in and help answer the questions. The whole goal is to give you the knowledge so you could do this on your own. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next coffee break.